Hey, good morning, everybody. Sorry for the delay. I was going to have my friend AJ, who's over in Phuket, Thailand, join me today. And I just sent him the link, and he just said he can't get on with his MacBook. So we'll see what happens. I think he's making it on with his phone. So let's see what's going on. And I'll just chat you up a little bit. I'll make sure that he's copacetic. And I'll answer a couple of questions here or comments. And let's see, final approach is on first. There we go. Here's my best friend right there. See? All right. Yeah, you're also AJ is right. Hey, what's going on, Charles? Yo, Greg, what's up, man? Good day from Northern Canada. Well, hi, Mark. Vegas. Hopefully I'll be there in March. That's the goal. That's the goal. So a couple of things before I bring AJ up. He is available, it looks like, on his phone. He is over in Phuket, and he's part of the Sandbox deal. And I wanted to bring him on, and hopefully we won't have any technical issues. And speaking of technical issues, we had two brownouts already today. And one was at about 3 a.m, lasted till about 6. So truth in lending and fair warning and all that good stuff. If my screen and everything just goes black, it's not because, anything other than the power going out. Am I frozen? Someone's saying I'm frozen here. Let me say hi to a few people here, then we'll see if we can get. Where'd AJ go? He was in the picture. I don't know where he went. All right. Let's see. Paul in the Philippines, welcome home. Your shirt matches your curtains. Yes, it's the metrosexual in me. Let's see. Enjoying your videos. Thanks a bunch, Linda. Always great to have some women on the show. Hello, Wisconsin. Yeah, I am back. I never went anywhere, but I don't do a lot of live streaming anymore. The airwaves are crowded, for one. And number two, I don't know. It's just kind of a hit and miss thing with me. But I think AJ is getting ready here. Oh, you're Thailand bound this Friday. Well, very cool. Very cool. I can see AJ is getting himself organized. I can see him. You can't, but we'll get him on here in a minute. My day is going awesome. I'm really happy. I don't know if you guys saw the video I did from my couch. What was I talking about? I can never remember my own stuff. But anyway, I have had audio issues forever, it seems. And I think I finally got the solution. I got two solutions, in fact. I had spent, I don't know how many hundreds of dollars, I don't know how many months, literally, of brain damage trying to get these Sabine Tech wireless mics that I bought way back 6-7 months ago. And they were totally cumbersome, and they sent me the wrong ones, and blah, 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 blah. And they had this application that you had to download to your phone, and it would heat up the phone, and blah, 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 blah. So anyway, when I bought my new phone, the issue was it didn't have a jack that I could plug in microphones to. I had to get an extension and then another thing, and it would weigh the phone down, and it would offset the gimbal. So it was just a cluster. Anyway, we always persevere, right? For $35, I got this thing. And all you do is you just plug that into the bottom of my phone. I plug this into the bottom of my phone. I clip that to my shirt. And I actually used that on my last little talking head video. And it worked like a charm. So nobody was whining about the noise. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, I also ordered another microphone, but an entire vlogging kit from Rode. And May had done a video on her channel where she was standing in a river, and all you could really hear was the river. You couldn't hear her or her guest. And out of the 75 comments, 74 of them were complaining about the noise. So the interesting thing about the other new microphone is that it's got a massive windsock on it. It's super directional. It was a lot more expensive than this one. But the example that the guy showed was he was standing in a river of all things, and he turned off the microphone and he turned it back on. And I showed May, I said, look, problem solved, girlfriend. So we're really excited about that. And then the last thing I'll bring you up on is little baby May has been down for the count with the flu. There's not COVID, but there's a flu that's kind of going around. And she got it. She got it down at the public market. And I didn't get it, but I got her all the meds. I have a pharmacist here in Valencia that is as good as, if not better than, a doctor. Just tell her what my issues are, or what May's issues are, and she'll prescribe the proper drugs, antibiotics, etc. So I'm excited about her getting better. She's finally up and taking nourishment. So hello, Ross. How are you, man? Okay. Pet Star's waiting for his 9A visa. Okay. Greg. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to drag AJ into the scene. And I am, hi, Philip. Thanks for tuning in, buddy. Hello from Omaha. We got our first snow. Eesh. Yeah, we did start. All right, let's see if we can get old AJ on here. There he is, kind of sideways. Can you speak, AJ? Can I hear you talk?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Oh, there you go. All right. All right.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. I'm trying to play around with my phone while we're doing this, but I think I'll give it a pass. How are you? It's good to see you, Paul.
It's good to see you, my friend. So AJ and I, how long have we known each other?
I don't know, 3 years maybe?
Yeah, yeah.
We had that faithful cup of coffee down in Dumageddon in almost probably 2.5 years ago.
Yeah, the infamous cup of coffee.
I don't know, Paul. Time flies.
It sure does. You're looking thin. You lost some weight.
Well, not enough. Let's put it that way. You know, you're always working on it. It's the endless battle when you turn 40, I guess, or 50 or 60.
So what I'd like to do, AJ, is I'd like to pick your brain a little bit, and we can always shoot breeze and all that kind of happy stuff and tell lies to one another. But I think for the purpose of this, it would be really informative for the folks watching. If you can kind of start off by giving them the process that you went through to get to Thailand from the States. I know you had a major cluster the first time you tried to board the plane. You were missing a document. You went and got the document. And then after you got the document was no longer required. And that only cost you a quick $1,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
Correctly. So
I heard you mention that part of the sandbox. Actually, no, I came in pre-sandbox. I got here last March.
All right.
And I had to go through 14 days of quarantine. So that's when you get locked up in the hotel room for 14 days. Actually, it turns into 16 is how it works. So they want 14 complete days. So you arrive on one day, that doesn't count. You leave on the last day, that doesn't count. So about this time last year, I've been thinking about, Paul, of going to Mexico or to Panama, to Belize, to Ecuador, to Peru. And I sort of made the decision when I heard about this, the quarantine process. They call it ASQ. It's a little bit different than the sandbox routine. That I decided, well, I might as well just go for it and be where I want to be. So I decided to come to Thailand. And in doing so, you have to apply for the certificate of occupancy, which today is not required. They changed the rule. So it's a little bit easier. They have a thing called Thailand Pass today. It's very easy to fill out. So it's much easier for people to get here. So anyway, I hired out of Bangkok a legal firm that would handle the paperwork for me. I just didn't want to deal with that.
Right.
And it's a good thing I did it. I paid through the nose for it, but it's a good thing I did it because when I got to the airport, you have to sync up the COVID swab test within 72 hours of getting on the plane. And there's two requirements. The first is you get the swab test, it has to be negative. And the second is you have to have a doctor's note. And the doctor's note has to have the right wording on it to meet the Thai requirements that you don't have COVID. So it's redundant. It's called the fit to fly. So the airport I left New York from, well, it was JFK. That airport had a service there that did both the COVID test and their own version of fit to fly. So I did that. Plus I had another private COVID test. And I got to the gate and the guy said, sorry, wrong form. So anyway, I tried to get a form in the next 2 hours, but it was too late. So I had to come back 2 weeks later. When I came back, I had 3 COVID tests and I had 3 versions of the form. So, and I got on the plane, so it worked out. But the legal team that helped me out, they just reissued all the paperwork. So I didn't have to do it 2 times, which is a good thing.
Right.
Yeah, so it was a real pain.
To kind of bring people up to speed on you and me, you came to the Philippines, you and I hooked up, we became friends, and we were hanging out together. And then you had to leave the Philippines during this whole COVID mess because you had a family issue that that had to be taken care of. And then getting back into the Philippines was impossible. And therefore you didn't want to stay in the States. That much you knew.
Yeah, it took me about 2 weeks to realize I wanted to get back to Asia. So,
okay. And Thailand was the option.
Yeah, it was the only option. Because if you think about Korea, Japan, Malaysia, everything was closed. So Thailand, it was the only choice.
So as of today, let's say I'm sitting in New York and I want to go to Thailand. What would the guys need or the gals need in order to make that happen?
Okay.
Are you current on that?
I'm not really well versed on it, but I could give you the general premise.
That's fine.
So let me just sort of roll back to July 1st. They started something called the Sandbox here in Phuket. And by the way, I was in Bangkok, and then I went to Pattaya, and then I came down to Phuket just before the Sandbox started. Right, so I sort of got grandfathered into this location, which is a blessing in disguise because this is open and the other places are not. So the Sandbox, basically, you come in here, you get a couple tests, you're in your quarantine hotel for 3 to 5 days, and but you can travel around the island, right? You can't just leave the island and take disease with you. So that's really the premise behind it. So what's happened is people are feeling more comfortable. There's more vaccinations. And what's happening is today they're doing something called Thailand Pass, where I think you just go in, you fill out. I've been hearing it takes 1 hour to do this form online, and then you're good to go. You come here, you get a negative test, and you're free to go. Anywhere on the island. I think after a few days, then you can travel throughout the country. So they're opening up.
Do you know if you're required to be vaccinated?
Yeah. I think you are supposed to be required. I think you are supposed to be vaccinated.
Okay. All right. So
I'm not vaccinated. I'm not vaccinated. So
you're not.
Yeah. So if I travel away, it might be difficult for me to get back here. But you can do it. You just have to take the COVID test before and after your flight. Nothing simple, right? It used to be a lot easier to travel.
Yeah. I never found travel to be easy, but it's really.
I've been swabbed up the nose so many times. I don't want to go anywhere.
So you've been there how long now?
Well, I got here 7 months. 7 months.
7 months. Okay.
Yeah.
And what's your general impression of Thailand or of Phuket?
Well, it's funny, your friend Gary was here. I wonder if Gary's online. All right. So he and I actually, he's an interesting guy.
Yeah, he is.
He and I sat down before he left and sort of went through the pros and cons between the Philippines. And, I've been listening and hearing what he was looking for in his life. And, he heard what I was sort of looking for, although I don't really know if I know what I'm looking for. But he was talking pretty much about, so there's a big difference between the Philippines and Thailand, right? So, and when you figure out the pros and cons, we sort of resolve that conversation where they're both equal, just in different ways. So, that's a quick way of answering or a long way of answering what you're saying. But I think the infrastructure here is really nice. It's a lot different than you find in the Philippines. And then, the culture here is a lot different. So, I think a lot of it has to do with Buddha and karma and the belief system that they have, that if you do good to others, good will come back to you. So in the Philippines, you can be a little sketchy sometimes, depending on where you are. So in terms of safety, building maintenance is a big thing. The buildings here are pretty well maintained. You're starting to see a little bit of decay or mold growth, only because there's been no travel and no funds, but they're not falling apart. And so things like that, you see a little bit better maintenance. The roads fall. The roads actually have flags when there's a hole in the road. It's not like a piece of bamboo crosses the street saying, "Hey, watch out, you're about to go off the cliff," right?
Right.
So,
I lived
you went into that.
2009, 2010. So I'm pretty familiar with with the infrastructure and the differences. And I really, really wanted to go back to Thailand the day I left. Philippines wasn't even on my radar. But then when it came to retirement time, I was looking at, all I could remember was what a hassle back in the day. I don't know what it's like now. The visa process was there. And the visa process here. And it's always been my goal when I first got here, almost 5 years ago now, but was to travel. And so with Gary, who was just there with you, and unfortunately he had to leave due to a family crisis. I went 1 year to Indonesia and went another year to Vietnam. And then I was going to go to the States to see my folks, or my dad at least, and some other people. And then my other trip by now would have been Thailand. Because I found the key for me living in the Philippines is, while it's got all of its good points, there is that slow drip that the Philippines does to you with all the little tiny nuances that adds up over time, for me at least, that just finally it gets on your last nerve. And I have found that once a year, the key for me is to once a year get out of the country, go somewhere for a couple, 3 weeks, and I find myself missing it. I want to come home. This feels like home. But I just felt it was really healthy to bail out of the country for a while. 1, you see something new. 2, you get another life experience. 3, you see another culture that you never experienced before, or I never did. I'd never been to Indonesia. I'd never been to Vietnam. I always wondered about it. So I know what I like about Indonesia and don't like. I know what I like and don't like about Vietnam. I know what I like and don't like about Thailand. Same thing with here. But I almost, I jostle a lot in my own head as to where I would eventually like to land. And it's about a 50-50 split between the Philippines and Thailand, man. I mean, it's close,
When you think about the Philippines, one of the nicest things about the Philippines, which I love, is that you can get to a ferry almost anywhere on every island, and for about $3 to $5, you could go to a different island and just experience a different culture, just a completely different life in different scenarios. So that's one thing we don't have here. Although there's a lot of little islands you can travel to, I've not done that yet. So I'm sort of settling in, and then hopefully we'll get out and do some more traveling that way. And again, without the vaccine, it's a little difficult.
Okay. one other thing is you started a YouTube channel.
Yeah, I started messing around with that. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, and you're doing a good job.
It's a lot of work.
What we'll do is we'll show you some love and appreciation when this video ends and it processes. I'll be sure to put a link to your channel in the description box. And anybody watching right now, or maybe the rerun of this, you'll want to check it out because you're doing the old Bangla Road walk, which Gary and I, when we were together over there, we used to do. And it was a lot more psycho than anything you're seeing now back in the day. But it was fun. It was just the whole people watching thing. You know, I could sit for hours and just sit on one of those places and have a beer and just watch the dynamics of everything going on. And
it's a funny night.
It's a lot of fun. And so you've been able to capture some of that on film. And I'm going to really recommend that people check out your channel and watch your. And they've opened up a Hard Rock over there. That's a good sign. They've opened up Hooters of all things, like the Thailand. Like Bangla Road needs a Hooters. That's like.
Well, you know, it's funny. What I'm trying to do here.
Get the kids to eat, you know, compared to the other places.
Yeah, they're considered tame compared to anything else out here. So I'll just sort of quickly tell you about my last video.
Sure.
What I've noticed is there's different pockets here in Patong of activity. This is like, I know a couple bar owners, and we sat down and we're talking about what it's like today, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's terrible. We need, 100,000 people a week getting off airplanes to keep this place going at full tilt." And during the holiday season, he was saying there's about 500,000 people a week that get off the airplanes during high season. Right? So that'd be right around Christmas, New Year's, a couple weeks following.
High season.
So just the volumes of people, and now you take a look at the airports, and they're really not very full. So it's about as much as I can say about that. But we figured that 18 bar stools at each bar, and there's X numbers of bars. There's about 150,000 bar stools in this city. And maybe 500 or 800 are filled up with. So that's the kind of, maybe 3% at the most, which is more than that if you do the math. But so anyway, that's kind of the numbers that's the place is facing. But what's nice about it today, and this is why I'm in Patong. People are saying, get out of Patong. It's crazy. It's busy. It's you're going to hate it when it gets too crowded. And I can understand why, because you don't want to be here and be stuck in a traffic jam half the day. Right. And it gets really, with that kind of people, that volume, you're just going to get stuck in traffic. Right. So right now, I'm lucky. I have a boutique hotel room. I'm overlooking Patong Bay, and it's the cost is not much different than the Philippines. It's kind of the COVID pricing. I can stay here as long as as I can because they're only 20% full at the most on a given night. So as long as we don't have traffic, I'll stay here. Let's just give people a color of what it's like. If you're planning on traveling, I'll do a little Thailand promoting. If you're planning on traveling, this is the place you could go and get in. It's safe, and you have freedom of travel here on Phuket and some of the surrounding islands. And the beauties, it's untouched right now. So it's really gone back to its natural state. And so it's good stuff. And as far as Bangla Road goes, pretty much everything's open. Some of the big venues like, on the videos, if you walking down there, Illusion's not open yet. But Hollywood's open. I haven't been in there. But all the little boutique bars are open, and a lot of bar girls floating around if you're into that kind of a thing. So, but what about
your food choices?
The food's great here. You have every food in the world is here. The seasoning, I don't know what they do with those peppers, but if you walk, did you ever notice this when you were here? When they started taking the peppers and started cooking them, that like permeates the air. Yeah. And all of a sudden you walk through this cloud, and like everybody, even the Thais do this. They start sneezing as they walk through it. So yeah, it's hot food. And yeah, a big diversity of food. You can't go wrong. It's good stuff.
Right. Right.
And, so
And so
what?
go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say cost of living. What's your impression? I mean, it's COVID right now. Because when I talked to Gary, he was staying at some apartment that was really nice, and I think he was paying somewhere in the neighborhood of $500. And he said it would normally go for $1,500, especially during high season, which is December, January, February out there. So I don't know if what you're quoting now would be COVID prices. But if a guy was to show up in Patong next week, what would he be expecting as far as a monthly budget? Living in a place like you've got, not something run down and all that. Just a nice place, nice beach area, nice view, safe, security guard, and maybe renting a motorbike and eating out 3 times a day, I guess.
Yeah. I put a budget video on there for anybody that wants to check that out.
Yeah, cool.
Yes, but for rent, it's about 600 a month, 600 US, 20,000 baht. You can get good places to rent here, but for between 13,000 and 25,000. It's more than you need. If you're going to be here for 6 months, you can fit that in. If you're a vacation traveler for 2 weeks, it's a totally different animal. Right? You're going to come here. You're going to spend $10,000 no matter what. So here, if you're looking for a longer term stay, you can expect between 13 and 25,000 baht, depending on location. I think my place, because it's just a great spot as far as the view goes. You'd probably be looking at around 1,500 a month for this, and it's a large studio. So you and I talked about this many times. I don't need much. I just need a closet, and, a bed to sleep in, and I'm good. I'm good to go. I need 3 shirts and 3 shorts, and so you don't need much. So for us travelers, it's fine for that. Eventually, and I have a nice pool up right above up on the top floor, so it's awfully nice. Now there's some nice pool villas, and I've stayed at a few of them. I stayed at 4 pool villas, and was thinking about renting one, and they would be between 25 and 30,000. But they're really nicely done, and you step outside, you have your own private pool, and they're not small pools. Usually, they're good sized pools. So, they could be. Yeah, they're typically on the ground floor, right? But they're a little bit more in the country too. A little bit different on the lifestyle, depending on what you're looking to do. I like the fact that I'm here. I'm walking distance to the gym. I'm walking distance to everything. I can walk from one end of this town to the other if I decided to. So it's good. You really don't need much.
And so overall, monthly food, rent, everything else, what would you ballpark? I'm not putting your feet to the fire on this, but a ballpark for a guy that's thinking about going there next month or next week.
You got to be careful of the variable. All right. So I'll tell you, if I'm looking for basics, right, it's about 1,800 a month. All right, which is, and you and I talked about this. It's about 30% more than the Philippines.
Okay.
Overall, right? The food's not going to be too much different. You could eat for about $5 a day here. But then, if you want to go and eat steak, Gary and I went out and had a $30 steak for a steak. You know what I mean? Right. A little one. I don't even think it was from Australia, but it was good to get out. So yeah, you're looking at that. The Bangalore Road thing, and I'm going to give everybody a little bit of an alert. I went out and I spent $150 one night, and I'm like, how did I spend? I woke up the next morning. I looked at my wallet and I had like $30 left. I'm like, what the hell happened? I said, I don't get it. And I ended up in a bar, and immediately, the girl showed up, right? And then we started playing the dice game, and a couple other people were hanging out. We all ended up started buying each other beers. And before I knew it, I got the bill and I paid it because I'd been drinking a lot actually at that point. So it was okay. And I woke up the next day and I started realizing, actually I went back into the bar and I bought, this time I did it a little different. I went on a Monday when it wasn't so busy. And I bought myself one drink. And then a girl came by and I bought her one drink. And I paid the bill each time. I didn't stack anything up. So I gave 1,000 baht for the girl's drink was 200 baht, which is $6, which is fine. You know, they have to make money. It's fine. You know, I'm okay with it. So if you take 1,000 baht minus 200 baht, how many baht would you get back, Paul?
800.
800, right. They gave me 400 back. Now, the drink that they had given me was the strongest drink I've had in 10 years. It was like, they must have put grain alcohol on the top. And I 3 sips, I'm starting to go like this. It was great. So I actually called them out on it. I said, wait a second. This doesn't add up. You know, I was alert enough to call them out totally. So I got my money back. But it was an interesting, you know, event because they didn't want to give it back at first. And then they went back and they brought back part of the change. I said, no, you still owe me another couple hundred baht. And so I got my money. Yet now I know why when I spent $150, I would tell you that 50 of that was probably sort of siphoned off the top and I wasn't paying attention. So, you know, the short-changing thing, I can remember my father telling me about this in New York. And the short change, you got to just really be careful about, you know, counting your change when you get it back and pay attention to that one. So, yeah, that was probably my worst experience. Yeah, which is not that bad an experience, but
no. Now, do you think that was conducive just to that particular bar, or do you think that's widespread?
I think that bar is really good at it. But I wouldn't, you know, you have to think about it this way. They're not making any money. They're starving. So any way they can bring money in, they're going to bring it in, you know, even if they have to shortchange. Maybe it's not part of their real personality, but they're I don't want to say they're desperate, but they need to make some living. So they could get
that's a good point to make. Like I got to tell you that when I first got here to the Philippines, I was kind of on hyper alert. And a lot of that, I think, was conditioning from living there for a year where you're at, because there was always a hustle at all times. And I think that's one of the major differences between where you're at and where I'm sitting right now. And I know you've experienced this. So I've gone into a restaurant here in the Philippines, in Dumaguete, and I've left a tip, say, of 100 pesos. And I've had the guy chase me out the door trying to give me back my money, thinking that he didn't know it was a tip. He thought it was I'd overpaid by accident. So I'd say that would be a big difference too that people need to take a look at when they're on a budget, and when they're, you know, to me it's sort of falls into that safety, that safety margin of error, if you will. Not that you're physically in danger, but your wallet's in danger. You know what I'm saying? And I saw that a lot in Thailand. We went one time, real quick story, Gary and myself and this young guy named Stuart were hanging out. This was back in 05, 06, I think. And Stewie, he was this pharmaceutical rep. And he had become friends with Gary before I got there. And he always took 3 weeks out of every 3 months, and he'd go to Thailand and hang out as he could. And he once told me and Gary, he says, you guys have got to come to this bar with me. He says, it is the friendliest bar of the hundreds that are here. And the women there love me. And you're going to get your best time. And Gary and I said, yeah, okay. And Gary and I, at the time, neither one of us drank. So I just had a club soda, and Gary had a soda water, and Stewie had whatever he was drinking. And we hung out there for about 45 minutes. And then it was time to move on. As we left Stewie's favorite bar where everybody loved him, Stewie realized that someone had taken his watch right off his wrist.
You lost his watch?
Yeah, they lifted his watch.
Oh, you hear that stuff happen.
Gary and I had really enjoyed the rest of that evening breaking Stewie's balls about how nice and and how everybody really loved him at that bar.
I think the simple answer to that is you when you go out, bring as little as possible with you.
Absolutely.
The less you have, the less you can get.
Yeah, you have to have the money in each shoe, each pocket.
Yeah.
And you only want to bring it out, 20 baht at a time.
Pretty funny. I was much more worried about that in the Philippines than here.
Is that right?
It's true. Yeah, I was like, you remember when I first met you? I was wound up. I was holding my bag like this, trying to take this out. By the way, how is that bag?
It's great.
Yeah, they're great, aren't they?
Yeah, I got it in the other room. I got all kinds of cool stuff in there.
Excellent. It's good to have. I only use that when I have to go to the bank, right? It's but that's about it. Or if I'm carrying my camera equipment. But for the most part, it's then I leave that sort of set aside, and then I take cash that I need for the day, and I'm good to go, right? And that goes into a wallet with no credit cards.
And right now, I think you're in an optimum kind of place and time, to be honest with you. And I also had some private conversations with Gary when he was over there. And he was just so happy about the lack of traffic. And he was able to zip around on his motorbike without any hassle and go in and get out. And not a ton of hawkers and what do we call them? These guys that would come up to you and try to, the vendors. He had another name for them, but anyway. And I don't know if
I can imagine what he called them.
Yeah, he had a couple of nice nicknames for him. But the tuk-tuk drivers were always, coming after us. Is that still happening? You walk out of a building, and 5 guys go tuk-tuk, tuk-tuk, tuk-tuk.
Well, yeah, I walk from here to Patong Tower, so let's say that's 1 kilometer. And I go, say, 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to do a video on this. Okay? I'm going to strap on the GoPro and just sort of keep it, hidden a little bit. But you have tuk-tuk drivers, you have jet ski people, you have boat people, the parasailing, and they're all lined up here, and there's no customer. So every day they're starting to know me now. So they're not hitting me every time I come by. But you hear taxi, and they do that, right, just to get your attention from across the street. To say, come on over here, let me put you in a taxi going in the wrong direction, kind of thing. So it's like, just some of these things that you see, but I could be hit 15 times just walking that kilometer. It's kind of.
I heard horror stories about the jet skis and the parasailing and all that they would always find something wrong with the jet ski when you returned it. And I don't know. I just heard there's a lot of clip games down there. But that being said, I also found that once you got away from kind of that hobnobby kind of stuff, and you got a little more out in the country, or you got a little decentralized, that the people were just super awesome. Again, it's another country where there's just smiles that are glued on their faces, just like in the Philippines. And I find that in both places to be a real mental impact on my whole demeanor. As I walk either through Thailand or the Philippines, it's been muted with the masks, but the smiles that are there, as opposed to the States where there's a scowl. And I find that just has this weird psychological kind of mind game with me. And for some reason, I can go out and I can be having maybe a half-assed bad day, and I see some old lady that's having a worse day, and we make eye contact, and she smiles at me,
Oh, yeah.
And like, good Lord, what have I got to gripe about? So I think that's 2 things that coincide between the 2 places. Are you having any issues with the language?
What language? No, Thai is it's actually not that bad. I'm starting to learn it. I can say 5 things.
Yeah.
I'm hungry.
Yeah.
No, just yeah, it's a good language. But like you, I also feel that people in the Philippines and Thailand, they're offering, very willing for smiles. No matter who you are, what you look like, I'm just happy to see somebody, and
Yeah.
part of the lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
What I like though is on this area of Phuket. I'm on the western side of it. So this is the area that got hit by all the in the 2004 tsunami. So
Yeah.
it was really wiped out. One of the bar owners was telling me he has a bar right on the beach, but the waves that came in, it's up in Bang Tao Beach, north of here. The waves came in as tall as the trees. You didn't really see that with all the videos, but he said those waves were big and just wiped everything out. And it wasn't so much the initial hit from the wave, but it was churning. It's like a blender, bringing everything back out into the water that got so many people injured.
Thousands.
Yeah, thousands.
Just off the beach.
But I found that when you get out to some of the further out beaches, they're beautiful and they're very unoccupied right now. A lot of the resorts, when you go south of here to Coron Beach, a beautiful, I think it's 7 or 8 miles long, and it's a wide beach, nice white sand beach, really rough surf, so with undertows, so you have to be careful with it. But it's so naturally beautiful, and there's nobody there right now. So when you think about what's going on with tourists, where do they go? They want to go where other people are, so they're really gravitating to Patong.
Yep.
And then the family vacationers are going to the outskirts, northern, southern beaches. But the whole western side of the island is just beautiful for that. The eastern side of the island I have not explored that much, but it's more industrial in terms of fishing, and it's more of a it's obviously beautiful oceanfront, but it's more of a local feel. So that's what's about that. So yeah.
So how long do you think that you'll be there?
I'll be here. I want to get back to the Philippines. I want to travel to I'd like to get to Bali. Right. But I don't know when. What's that? So do you. I'll see you there.
Have that trip.
No. Yeah. So yeah, it's I want to travel around, but there's no reason to leave. I'm pretty happy here. I would go back to the Philippines though. There's a lot and when I left the Philippines, it took me first to get out of there. I had to get certifications to get out of the country. So I missed my flight then as well. It took me a month to leave. So anyway, once I got out, I felt that there's 7,000 islands in the Philippines and 5,000 are inhabited. So it would have been fantastic. And I got up to Coron and Palawan a little bit and El Nido. But those are the kind of islands that I'd love to go and spend a month at, right? Just do some in-depth exploring because I think the beauty is unsurpassed. But we have that here too, down in the Krabi area. So
yeah,
I got to get out. But so I kind of feel that when I left the Philippines, it was unresolved. So I do feel like I want to get back. There's a lot there, but on the other hand, there's a lot here. So this is a great spot.
So if someone put a gun to your head and said pick some place to live, which one would it be? Philippines or Thailand? I
can't decide.
That's a tough question.
Yeah, it's a tough question. It's probably inclined to be, I like walking down the sidewalk and not falling into a sewer. So I'd have to tell you that probably Thailand is where I'd set up home. And we talked about this too. When you're traveling, it's nice to have a home base.
Yep.
Right. So if you have a home base here in Thailand, and assuming the rest of the world is open for travel, you can go anywhere for 3 days or 3 weeks and then come back home. So I could see that. So I would probably call this home and take month excursions over to the Philippines.
I think I would reverse it just due to the cost of living. Again, you're saying that there's a 38% bump over there. So I think in my mind's eye, I would have a rental place here that was probably less expensive, maybe less exotic, but it would be a home base. It would be a place where I could, pull into once I got back from wherever I went. And I think, I'm hoping that once we get through all this pandemic deal and travel resumes to some sort of normalcy, that I can bounce myself personally back and forth to Thailand. Because I checked back in the day, the flights were really cheap. You know, it was really easy to get there. A hotel was cheap, and you can bounce in for 3 weeks, Airbnb, come back to the Philippines, and then, like you said, you want to go to Bali or whatever. So I think that for the traveling person that's interested in Asia, it is a good idea to set up a home base in one of the locations that you're comfortable with.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Now you have to have. Let's get a little more infomercial here for these guys. What insurance are you carrying? Because that's a requirement.
All right, there's a big difference in the cost of living. Okay, when you're in the Philippines, there's no insurance, right?
Right.
You're on your own, and that's the other thing I'm going to point out here is Thailand's medical facilities. Bumrungrad, I had a little bit of a blood pressure thing kicking in when I got here. So I went to Bumrungrad, which is in the top 200 hospitals in the world. So and seriously, it was the cleanest hospital I'd ever been in, and you could eat off the floor. So it was that pristine a place. So, and there were people there willing to help every step along the way. There were 10 girls behind every desk. Okay. It wasn't that, you'd walk in and be one person in a room. So the medical care here is spectacular.
Second to none.
What's that?
Second to none.
Second to none. And I don't think the Philippines could catch up to that. I think that's just a totally different thing. So if you're getting older and you have some concerns, that's a big consideration. But then there's a cost to it. The cost is still about half of what it would be in the States. So, and even less. And I'm talking about the medical bills, not so much the insurance. But the insurance here, we break it into two different aspects. One is the short-term travel. Guys coming here for 3 to 6 months or up to a year. Those are kind of travel packages. They're around $1,800 a year. Okay. They don't cover pre-existing conditions, but if you have an accident, you're covered. And so about $150 a month. So that's what I'm on today. I had another plan, and this is why I told you a little bit about the hospital stuff. I had another plan with a large insurance company, and as soon as I submitted a bill to them, they canceled the insurance. So I found myself without insurance. And I was like, all right, well, that's a requirement for staying here. So I grabbed something quickly, and I'm lucky that I found something. Still, it's the insurance companies is not like the U.S. where pre-existing conditions don't matter. It does matter in the rest of the world. So you need to.
So that would be a key factor in somebody going over there to do due diligence and really research the different insurance policies and know them and understand them. I mean, I would hate to have bought an insurance policy and had that happen to me where I filed a claim, and I don't know what you were paying for that insurance, but I'm sure did the claim exceed the monthly cost, or was it an outrageous claim, or did they just cancel you because it was a claim?
They canceled because of pre-existing conditions. That was the rationale, and I didn't disclose all the conditions because who remembers that they had, high blood pressure 20 years ago? Right?
Sure.
So, they look for a reason. I'm convinced they look for a reason not to pay. So it is what it is, But still, if you're going to be here retired, you sort of have to do it. Now, I could replace that kind of a policy, but the cost is twice as much, and I have to do it. I will. But, and that could be $4,000 a year.
4,000, I was going to say, a year.
Mm-hmm.
Now that would be a policy that would cover you pretty much head to toe, and with pre-existing conditions. Yeah,
you could sort of expect that. And it depends on, obviously, it depends on the, all the risk factors, right? The age, the condition that you had before. If you have a back problem going back 20 years, and you might need surgery on it, you come here, write the claim, they're not going to want to pay.
Yeah, when I went there, I went to the doctor just to get some prescriptions refilled. And man, was I impressed with you walk in, and like you said, there's like 5 women that all just neat as a pin, all dressed as nurses. And
they dress really well here.
Took me straight into a perfectly English-speaking doctor. And he said, "What can we do for you?" I said, "I just want to get my scripts filled." And he's like, "That's it? There's nothing wrong? You don't need me to check anything?" I said, "No, man, I just want to get a refill on this, this, and this." But back in the day, that's when I was on meds. And no problem. Took it to their pharmacy. They filled it. And like you said, it was just as clean could be. I was, as opposed to here, where you walk in and there's some old lady, texting her boyfriend, and a dog runs through the waiting room, and somebody else comes in with some sticky rice. They're selling that in the lobby. It's a little different here in the Philippines.
Well, especially up in the lunches.
Let me tell you something. The Philippines hospital is where I voluntarily wear a mask and a face shield.
I mean,
good day.
Well, the good thing here,
I do not want to breathe this air. I have no idea what's going on in here.
So the good thing here is that you get your basic medications, antibiotics, all that kind of stuff. You get that here just by walking into the pharmacy. You don't have to go to a doctor. Right. So, and I don't know. Well, obviously, the reason they don't do that in the U.S. is because they make more money if you have to go to the doctor to get that prescription.
Right.
For a $5 prescription, you have to spend $40 on a doctor visit, which is stupid.
Yeah. And half a day doing it.
Yeah, but the converse point to that is everybody who goes to the doctor in the Philippines or the pharmacy in the Philippines get that prescription for antibiotics. It's just like a given. You're going to get that prescription, whether you need it or not.
Correct.
So,
right. Yeah.
We
go to the doctor to be ghost.
So how's baby May? I see that she's putting a lot of stuff out on her channel.
Yeah, she's psycho. She's just as loopy as the day is long. Yeah.
She still does all that on her phone?
Huh?
She still does that all on her phone?
Oh, yeah.
I can't even see that. It's like, you got to have a computer to do it.
She'll videotape anything. So, if you come back to the Philippines, do you have any specific? Is that in your intention? I mean, I know you want to come over here. Do you have a timeline on that, or are you just playing it by ear, or what are you doing?
I'm going to play it by ear. It depends on travel problems and difficulty with travel.
Yeah.
Right. For me to go to the Philippines and have to, I'm not so worried about Thailand. I'm worried about the Philippines. They can shut down the airport just like that, and you're stuck. Right. So, also, do you think that they're going to have another pandemic? Is that going to prevent you from doing something while you're away? So, you really sort of have to play that out. Plus, I have a feeling that the way this whole thing's going with COVID is, I don't know if I can say that, but I have a feeling that eventually it's just going to be going away, right? Where they begin to open up regardless. I mean, they're starting to do it here. They're doing it somewhat in the States. In fact, they are doing it in the States.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to get a global vaccine passport. I have mixed feelings about that.
I do too.
Yeah. It's like you and I talked about the conspiracy stuff a little bit over the years, but I don't. I just right now I just want to see where it goes, and then I can make some decisions.
Sure.
But for now, the way I'm looking at things, and you and I discussed this, is when you go from where you were to Asia, Philippines, Thailand, or Bali, that kind of a lifestyle, you live just in the moment, in the day, right? I don't think too far ahead. I know if I want to go to Bangkok in 3 months, then I have to sort of figure that one out a little bit.
Sure.
But right now, the only thing I care about is what beach I'm going to go to and how I'm going to get there. That kind of thing. If you want to keep that simple. maybe tonight what restaurant I'm going to go and have dinner, and
sure,
who I'm going to hang. Simple.
How do you like doing YouTube? Have you found it, like me, to be a really fun distraction from the ordinary? I mean, it's something that you don't take it as nearly as seriously as, and I'm the same way. Neither one of us have ever taken it seriously. I know you're newer at it, but I haven't taken it seriously since day one. But I have fun with it. But I think you'll agree with me that it's one of those deals where you got nothing going on that day, and you go, "Well, I'll make a video."
Well, when you see the last video I put out, actually I had to redo it because I had a little bit of a copyright strike. You'll see why it's fun, because I walked down Bagler Road and I just happened to be holding my camera, and I was just holding my camera, and these girls came up and started pulling me into the bar. All right, so I got all that going on. I'm like, no, I can't. But I wasn't drinking that night anyway. So it was just a funny thing. And so, yeah, you can have tons of fun with it if you just live with the moment, right? You don't force too much of it. I like to hold the camera and let the sounds around me inform the people, because it's visual, but it's also audio. So if you can because people want to hear crowds, right? You can look at 100 people, but if there's no noise, it's probably a pretty dull party. Sure. So, people really like to see, and hear the whole thing. So I try to really let the surrounding environment speak for itself.
Right on.
And, eventually I might start doing some interviewing, but right now, I'm just videoing what I see. And I like putting the videos together on the creative side. But, I'm not taking it seriously. It's not. If I ever get monetized, then I would probably give the money to somebody local, right? Or if somebody's in my video, I'd give them a few bucks on it.
Understood. Yeah. So what else is going on, buddy? What else do I need to know? We get to? Let me see if I can find some comments here. We might have some questions.
Here's some comments. Feel it there.
Yeah. You up over there? Good morning. Let's see. I want to say hi to everybody that's saying hello to me here. I apologize.
Yeah, and don't forget to like Paul's video.
That's all we ask for here on the Old Dog Show. Like. Well, I'll answer this question. Yeah. Check this shit out. Did Baby May get a new microphone for her YouTube? I heard her mention a problem in her last video. She did. And we have gone through fits with freaking audio stuff. And for $30, I found this on Shopee. And guess what, boys and girls? You take this little gizmo here, if I can show it. Where am I? And you plug that into the bottom of your phone. She's got the same phone as me now. And then you take this microphone and you clip it to your shirt. And for $30, as opposed to $400 that I did with Sabine Tech, where you had to download apps and everything else, guess what happens? You plug this puppy in, it lights up from the phone. You turn this baby on, and it connects to that in about 5 seconds, and you're up and running. No Bluetooth, no app, no bullshit, okay? It's a beautiful thing. I used it on my last Talking Head video, and nobody could see this because I was wearing a black shirt, and it blended in perfectly. But for once, I didn't get any audio complaints. And then it's over there. I bought for $150, I bought another one, which is a vlogger kit, which came with a tripod that's pretty sturdy. It actually has a light up on top. But the best part of it is it's got a boom microphone with this massive windsock. So we're pretty well set. The boom microphone, we figure, will be perfect for interviews because it picks up anything that's in front of it. So I've always wanted to have multiple microphones. Like if I had 3 guys in the room, everybody would have a mic on. That's kind of a pipe dream at this point in time without spending $1 zillion. But with this boom microphone, and by Saturday, my little studio that I've got I'm building over here to the left of me right now, will be finished. We're wrapping that up. We've got everything we need for that. So they'll be able to do interviews, and I'll be able to have 2, 3, 4 people in, and that boom which should be able to catch it. And then I'm hoping that this clip-on microphone will work while I'm driving the scooter and make and hold the camera and the gimbal on the back, and I can talk while we're driving. Because we get a ton of requests for people to say, why don't you just take us to Dumageddon and show us around? Why don't you drive us through the plaza? Why don't you go here, go there? Great suggestions. I'd love to fulfill those dreams, but if I can't talk and tell you what you're looking at, what's the point of doing it? You know what I'm saying? So I haven't tested it out yet. It's been raining. It's going to rain today, so I don't even know if we'll make it that far today. But I do believe the audio issues have been finally fixed. So let me find some more questions here, kids. I know I'm way behind here. Let's see. Oh, yeah, this is very important. It was nice to see that Gaylord was back. Yeah, he's been in timeout for about 3 weeks. So Gaylord the chicken was in the other was in the video.
You've had a cast of characters over the last year. That's for sure. You definitely had some characters coming through your channel.
I think it's just more to come. Trust me, once he gets the studio going. Yeah, this is actually not a bad comment, which is Baby May needs to do a reshoot with the new mic. Well, I'm going to start. Yeah, I got to get her hooked up with that because May likes to go outside. She goes to rivers. You know, Jennifer, you know a lot of these girls that she's talking to anyway. You know, they're your friends. We've all been friends for years. And they go out together and chicky-chack around. And the microphone would have been perfect for that river shoot. But you know what? You don't know until you do it. That's the thing about Baby May, is she just goes balls out on anything. And then she'll ask me my opinion of it. And she goes, what do you think of this video? I go, I don't think it's very good. She goes, okay. And I go, what'd you do with it? She says, well, I posted it.
I'll post it anyway. That's May for you, though. You don't like it, I'm going to post it anyway, Paul. Good, thanks.
You gotta love her. So let's see. Oh, here we go. I just got my Thailand pass.
Yeah.
I'm coming to Bangkok and only required to stay in quarantine for 1 night. That sounds like what Gary did.
I think Gary was in the Sandbox. But the Thailand pass, I'd like to know, how long did it take you to actually enter that information into the computer system? I know they had a hard time with it when they first launched it, but I'm hearing people get it done in 30 minutes or less.
Cool. Okay.
It's a great way to go.
There's a new thing called the Thailand Pass. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that's new. Yeah, as of I think it was November 1st. I'm not sure.
Okay, so that's what you guys will want to Google or look. You know, the whole point of these little deals is I try to let the guys that are watching and can't get into the Philippines but want to go somewhere. We had our little run with Nicaragua and Dean Verano.
Let me just throw something out to you quickly about where to go in Thailand. I have friends in Bangkok, in Pattaya, and here. And the most amount of freedom and the most amount of places that are open up are here. So, you know, none of the big venues are open anywhere. It seems much more restrictive in the Bangkok and Pattaya area. And a vlogger just did a video. I've become friends with him, but did a video saying right now he's not highly recommending that area because there's nothing you can do. A lot of people are sitting around thinking, now what? There's a small little area of town that's open for food, but and then they have what I like about the Thailand is they have these minivans driving around and they sort of roll up the side, and it's a bar. It's a bar in a car. So anyway, what they'll do is they'll have, the food court area, and they'll have one of these bar cars right there. So people are just drinking anyway, but it's just a funny thing to go. But that's just some advice if you're thinking about coming here. Where do you want to think about going?
That's good
but
advice.
You can go from Bangkok down to
Flight
Phuket.
from Bangkok to Phuket was only an hour. And when I was
it's an hour on the plane. It's a quick flight.
It was flying every hour on the hour, but I doubt that's the same now. But
it's a lot of empty airplanes, but they get here, so it's okay.
Do you think there's a flight a day coming out of Bangkok to Phuket?
Oh yeah. There's probably about 10.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. So you have your choice.
There, unless he's got something set up for himself there in Bangkok. Probably a good idea would be to buy the ticket, get over there to where you're at. And I did hear Nana Plaza and Soy Cowboys open. Okay. I only walked down both those streets a couple times before they shut down. All right.
Kind of sad.
Oh, thank you, Linda. Thank you very much. Always nice to have.
Paul, you give good life advice. I like that. The mentor.
Let's see what we got here. Show proof of vaccination. Let's see. You can either show proof of vaccination, both shots, or a negative PCR test to travel to Phuket from inside Thailand. Okay, that comes from Don C. Good to know. All right, let's see. We're getting some more information here. The Thailand, the Thailand pass doesn't require vaccination, but the quarantine period is longer if you're not. Okay.
Okay. Now that's good info.
I would always recommend guys don't pay attention to knuckleheads like me on YouTube for information. Always go to an official government site, or there's a service that Gary used that I can't remember the name of off the top of my head that organized everything for him. And you used a lawyer. So I would also, if it was me and I was going to go to Thailand tomorrow, I would use one of those services that do all the paperwork and knucklehead stuff for you. Let's see. So Stephen Day says, Paul, you need to do the 14-day quarantine in Thailand if you are not vaccinated. If vaccinated, a negative PCR test. So that's kind of conflicting with what we just heard before. So again, I would refer you to a government website. Let's see. Thailand
Paul, I just want to jump back on that thought. Even with a 14-day quarantine, and I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but if you want to get here, you just go through it, right? You can do it.
Yeah. It wasn't torture for you either, like it is here.
You know what? Here's how I think. The way I think about this is when you're traveling from the other side of the world to here, you're going to have 2 weeks of jet lag anyway. So it's a great way to sleep it off. You come out, you're feeling refreshed. And you get bored, but it was worth it. I'm glad I did. I'm glad I didn't wait for now. I'm glad I came here last March.
Okay. Thank you very much, Linda. We will give that to Riza and the kiddies. Thank you very much. Let's see. Not necessarily many options on retirement visa. Philippines. I'm trying to get through the. Thank you, Ted. I will buy Mr. Bud Brown a cup of coffee. Let's see. I was born there like a season. I miss it. There's Biff. Chad Jr. Ecuador requires only a $400 monthly pension to get a retiree visa. And if you have a Filipino wife like I do, there's another plus. So Ecuador, there's a lot of places that are options for guys. What is AJ off the top of your noodle? If you don't know, it's all good. I know you did something for yourself, but are you familiar with what the visa situation is?
For Ecuador?
Well, no, for Thailand. I mean, like, how long can a guy stay there for, and how much does it cost? Can you stay for 3 months and you got to go? Can you stay for a year? And how does that work?
Well, I have the retirement visa.
Okay.
Right. So I've got, so I have 1 year and I just reissue it. So I have to.
Large deposit in the bank?
Well, no, because if you have both the income and the deposits at your home, in your home, I didn't have to move any money. I had the income, so I didn't show the assets, although I showed both.
What would be a minimum income to get a retirement visa in Thailand?
I think it's about 2,400.
2,400 a month.
Yeah, somebody might know it's probably 60,000 baht per year. I hear they're playing around with it. They're trying to raise it in some sense. Yeah. I don't even know if I'm supposed to have a bank account here in Thailand, but I don't. So we'll figure it out as I get to it.
I expected that about Thailand when I was there. I thought they had a much better system than the United States did, where the United States just lets anybody and everybody, come in. Thailand, I felt much more respect for its own culture, and they wanted to keep the Thailand, and they really didn't want a bunch of swinging dicks over there buying houses and moving in and living permanently, because it was going to influence the culture. And they're Buddhist and they're Thai, and they want to keep it that way. They don't want a bunch of other influences. Yeah. And so they raised the bar pretty good. Even when I was there, they made it difficult to stay. And on one hand, it was a pain in the ass, but my immediate reaction to it, even way back in 2005, was I got to respect this. They're doing a good job in maintaining their identity, if you will. Because and if it gets diluted by a bunch of Americans and Europeans and Chinese and Japanese and pretty soon it stops being Thailand, and there goes the charm, there goes the deal. What they really want you to do is come in for 3 weeks, drop a ton of money, and then get the hell out and go home. So, and I agree with that, to be honest with you. So
yeah, I like it too. They have a protective society here.
Yeah.
They're very protective of their own people, which I support that 100%. They have an immigration policy, which the States does not. So very happy to go through it. It's not a problem. Yeah. I think really the purpose of it is so that a lot of people don't get here and they're completely destitute, right?
All right.
Yeah. Because then who ends up supporting those people or paying to get them out of here? It's the Thais.
That was famous.
That's why they protect their own people. It's good stuff.
We used to call them balloon chasers. There were guys that would go to Thailand and they would just be broke, and they would have $700 or $800 a month coming in from whatever. And they were trying to live the lifestyle of a guy that's got $4,000 a month and they got $800 a month. So they're chasing the girls and they're going to the bars and they're smoking cigars and they're acting like, and then 2 weeks into it, they're out of money. And we called them balloon chasers because back in the day, whenever in Patong there, in the Bangla Road area, whenever the girls would have a birthday, they would throw a little party for the girl. The bar would throw a party for the girl. And they would offer up like free chicken wings and things like that. It was just sort of like a little free buffet that they would set up. And they would set up balloons to celebrate it. And you had these expats that were called balloon chasers because they'd come down every night to see who had the free food. And they'd go over there and eat the wings. So they finally figured out they weren't buying any drinks and kicked them out.
Figure that out.
Oh, God. So I can't get to all these comments, but I do want to get to the ones pertaining to you or Thailand. Okay, your channel name, which I will put in the description box when this thing winds up.
Sure. It's Living Thailand 2122. So it's living space Thailand space 2122. That's 2021, 2022. Maybe I'll make it. Yeah, maybe I'll just make it 212 or something. I don't know. But anyway, it's there. Check it out.
And I'll put the channel in the description box, but I got to let this video kind of cycle through. So it'll take about 30 minutes when we wrap it up.
Thanks, my tablet. That's a great day.
Let's see. Here we got a couple of jabs. Okay, let's get those in. I like this guy better than Dean.
Oh, you know what? I saw about half the show with
Dean. Have you ever had a chance to catch the Dean Verano act?
Yeah, a couple times. Yeah. He's a little manic. Pretty funny guy, though. You know, Paul, you only hang out with good people. That's all I can say.
I like variety. What can I tell you? Let's see here. Yeah, I'm going to put it in, kids. I'm going to put AJ's channel in.
Very good, very good.
Oh, Dean is a legend.
Dean's a legend. What is it about Dean, Paul? I don't get it. He's probably watching this from Ecuador. Somewhere over there, I think.
It was one of those deals that you just can't replicate, and you didn't know it was coming. If you don't know the story, Dean's like the Shangwa guy, you know? I mean, he just like talks a mile a minute, and he sweats, and he's got this rotation supposedly of 5 girls, you know, this one's Monday, this one's Tuesday. And he was such a psycho. And he was calling me, and he was saying, I want to be on your channel. It's like, for over a month, I was like, I don't know, dude. You know, you're going to have to tone it down. And I'm happy to have you on. I'm always happy to promote somebody. But, you know, I want to make sure you keep it fairly clean and you know, we have some standards here on the Old Dog channel. And so anyway, he said, yeah. He says, I will. Because he has this line of cosmetics, and he's got this other business, and he's got this, and he's got that. And so I had this stern talking to with Dean. And I said, okay, I'm going to have you on the channel. But I says, no, you don't get to put Pure Alpha Life, which is the name of his channel and stuff, as your name. You're going to put down Dean as your name, number one. He agreed to that. I said, and you're not going to get there and promote your cosmetic line. You're not going to do this. You're not going to do that. I gave him all these little rules and regulations. I said, I just want to get information about Nicaragua. And I want you to tell the guys how they can get to Nicaragua, what to expect. Do they need a vaccine? Do they need this? Do they need that? And so we have a little information channel going or stream going. And he agreed to all that. So I had Dean on. And he was a good boy for an hour. And then I had to use the CR. And so I said, okay, Dean. I said, I'm going to leave you alone for 5 minutes, okay? And I'm going to come back. And I went to the CR. And by the time I came back, Dean had all of his cosmetics out. He had the girls running around.
Your talking is good.
Doing everything I just told him not to do. Got Pure Alpha Life all over the place.
You're a forgiving man, Paul. Forgiving guy.
And so when I got back, then what happened was the comments started coming in from the audience. And it was the funniest comments because these guys either loved him or hated him. And it was just, I stayed an extra 4. I was late for an appointment, and I had gotten rid of Dean, and I just read the comments, and I couldn't stop laughing. It was just, it was the best stream I've ever done, and you can't duplicate it because it wasn't planned. You know what I mean?
You can't make that stuff up. You can't plan it.
So even I haven't had Dean on for months, and yet he's still embedded in people's soul and mind.
Obviously. Steam's a legend. Yeah. Thanks, Dickie Faz. All right.
Hey, here we go. It takes 30
there
minutes
you go.
an hour to do the Thailand Pass. I don't even know what the Thailand Pass is, but
that's quick. You see,
nice.
when I did my quarantine pass, I had to take my passport and FedEx it down to the consulate in New York City. So that was, and then I had a $200 check in there, and then they returned it to me like within a day. So it was a quick round trip. And then I had my certificate of occupancy. That was the worst part of it, because you don't want to give up your passport for anything. But I got it back and it was okay. But I don't think you need to put your passport in, just your passport number, and you're good to go. Nice. So that's great.
Okay. Do you know Mark? I guess this is for you.
Nope, don't know Mark. No.
Okay.
Thanks for the question.
What is the Sandbox? It's a solid question.
All right, yeah, it's a great question. It's a great concept too. The Sandbox is Phuket's a separate island. I think it's 10 miles wide, 30 miles long, with some remote islands around it. But the only way to get on here is by boat, by plane, or over one bridge.
One bridge.
So it's an isolated part. They just close down the bridge. They have checkpoints. So you can't just drive into the rest of Thailand. So when COVID was raging, the concept was to bring people in here. It will help the economy here, but it will also sort of filter people so that when they, after 2-3 weeks, after they're acclimated and they're not sick, then they could cross over and go into the other parts of Thailand. So for people that were repatriating back to their country here, for Thais living in foreign countries, they could come here, go through a life for a couple of weeks, and not really be boxed into a hotel room. It's sort of it's a nice transition into Thailand without infecting the entire country. Where the Thailand problems actually happened was they had a lot of immigrants, a lot of working immigrants sort of sneaking in from other local countries, and they brought in some of the COVID. Right. So, and then in certain parts of Bangkok, it was rampant. So they just didn't want to have that. It was uncontrolled. And that's true, you know, controlled versus uncontrolled immigration.
Got it.
Good question.
Good question, right. Let's see.
How many comments did you get this whole time?
I have no clue. Looks like you got some subs already.
Yeah, I picked up quite a few. You know, keywords and good thumbnails make a difference. Thank you. I hear the roosters.
Yeah, my roosters.
That, you know what? There's one thing consistent about your friend Gary. Yes, I don't like chicken. I don't want to wake up every day and hear chickens. I don't want to go to bed hearing chickens. So I can go to bed here. I don't hear chickens. It was pretty funny.
He had it in his mind he was going to go someplace like Taglabaron or something like that, whatever he had read. And I said, just shine it on, dude. You're going to hate it, you know? I don't care what you're reading. I think the Sandbox sounds like paradise, peace and quiet for a few weeks. I would have to agree with that.
It is.
Because, you know, to me, it's the best of both worlds. You know, it's funny because we're never satisfied with what we have, it seems. And here I am, all the expats that are going to go have gone. I mean, we're down to nothing here. There's a few guys like me that are still here. There's guys that are married that, you know, that build houses. There's guys that own businesses here. They're still here. But for the most part, anybody that was peripheral or temporary at all is gone and has stayed gone.
Yep.
And so I really enjoy the lack of crowds. I enjoy the reduced traffic and the pollution. And yet I look forward to new guys coming in and being able to meet them and greet them just like I did when you and I first met, and all that good stuff. But I think right now you're in an optimal place. I think it's getting more and more open every day. You get to enjoy the food there. The street food is beyond compare. It's healthy. It's cheap. You've got some entertainment. If you want a beer, obviously you can get one. You've got a nice place to live. You got clean white sand beaches that are uncrowded. And so get it while you can, brother.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a good comment there. It is paradise. I think it's one of the best places you could be on the planet right now, given the circumstances. You know, where it doesn't work with people coming here is the people that are coming for like that 2-week vacation, party mode, full time, all the time. You know, that's there, but you're dealing with, you know, a couple streets. So, and it's big, you know, there's a lot going on, but it's not what you're used to. It's not, you know, if you have 150,000 bar stools and only a couple thousand are filled, it tells you right there it's not as wild as it was. So guys that are expecting that kind of wild, it's not there. But for people that are more into having a beautiful paradise, it's there.
Yeah, there's different strokes, you know. So guys my age, we're not big on the nightlife for the most part. At least I'm not. It's, you know, one of those things where you go, depends if you're single or if you're in a relationship too, I imagine. So what your motivation would be.
I can only handle Bangor Road once or twice a month, but I'll walk down every week for a video. But, you know, and it's fun. It's a good spot to go. But
that was and the walking part was interesting. Analogy I've made between the two places of Thailand and Philippines is when I lived in Thailand, without trying, I lost 20 pounds because I walked so much. In the Philippines, without trying, I gained 20 pounds because there's still walking,
right.
You know what I mean? The fucking sidewalks, and you just take the scooter or car, whatever you drive, and pull up to the front of the place, come out and drive again. I drive a lot, but I hardly walk. And when I do walk, I trip and fall.
I'll figure.
There ain't a level place out here. I'll tell you that. Let's see. Here we go. There you go. Looking tan and fit. I woke up to snow today. I'm sorry about that, buddy.
That breaks my heart. I love this.
Good morning from Ohio. Is petty crime on the increase because of lack of income for so many? I don't know if that question is for you or for me.
No, we can both answer that.
Yeah, well, go for it.
I don't think there's any crime here. I really think that the karma and Buddha philosophy is sticking with the people. It's what they're accustomed to. Philippines, I have a different thought on that. What do you have?
I've never experienced any crime myself. I know that there are areas here that are not safe for me to enter. Before I was with May, I was dating a young lady, and she lived in called the shanty town, if you will. That's where her boarding house was. And we had gone out for the evening, and I drove her to the entrance of this place. And I started to turn in, and she knocked me on the side of the head. She said, "No, drop me off here. I'll walk in." And I said, "Well, why is that?" She says, "Well, you'll drive in, but you won't drive out." You know, so that exists out here. And May has told me, "Hey, don't turn," because she gets the local, grapevine. And we were driving down Jose Romero Road, which you're familiar with. And she said, "Do not ever go left down here, baby, during the night or by yourself." I said, "Why?" And she said, "Well, it's Shabu, Shabu town." So we have pockets out here that can get very dangerous. And then there are rebels out here. Down in Mindanao, you have issues with that. And even in May's hometown, Chaton, up in the hills, they're called NPA. You're familiar with that. And these are kind of like anti-government, anti-everything, anti-money, whatever. And there's also a degree of jungle justice out here. So if you hurt someone's feelings or make them lose face, that can get you shot in the head. So again, I've never experienced anything like that. I've never been around any of it. But I know it's there, but it's not prevalent. I always did feel very safe in Thailand. I've always felt very safe here. However, I think anytime you walk down a dark street alone and you're obviously drunk, you're probably going to set yourself up for, a good pickpocketing, if nothing else.
Yeah. So you don't want to put yourself into that circumstance. You try to avoid that. Right. And, I'll just take what you said. Because I lived in Cebu City for a while, and I lived in IT Park, so it's a fairly safe spot. But, walking over to Ayala Mall, which is only a 10-minute walk, which I did, it was fine. But if you were to go down some of the side streets, you might come out without your wallet. Yeah. So, yeah, and I could only imagine that has not improved, especially with the working city.
It's gotten worse. And again, I'm a sleepy little Dumageddon, where you've actually got more experience with other bigger cities than I have. So, it's going to be that way no matter where you are, even in America. Let's see what's going on with real estate prices in Dumageddon. Are condo prices rising, falling, the same? Prices are really hard to put up. I'll tell you, rents have gone down. As far as prices, I honestly can't comment on that because I haven't looked to buy anything. But my own firsthand experience is there's a number of guys that I've done house tours on that are renting houses for maybe $100 a month less than they would have been back when we were rocking. So rental prices are down. For some reason, there's no rhyme or reason to the sale price of a place, and it's very difficult to determine. And the Filipinos tend to get very stuck in the mud on their price. They think it's worth this, and it's not. But it's hard for me to comment on that. I can say that overall, though, rental prices are down a good 20%. And that's COVID prices. Let's see. Hua Hin is awesome and relaxed in normal times. You been there?
No, that's on the other side of the bridge. Although I could go there. It's on the agenda, but I hear it's awesome. It's I think commuting distance, from Bangkok, or I think it's a 3-hour ride. So. It's more of a sedate Pattaya, from what I understand. It's bigger, and there's a couple streets there, but it's not the culture there. It's more family and more. I think that's really the resort living where you have a lot of golf courses. I think a lot of Chinese.
There's a lot of golf in Thailand, by the way.
I haven't played, but when I play, I don't play that well anyways, so I'm not missing it. So. Yeah, a lot of that around here.
Let's see. Where does your guest live now? How does he like it? What are the pros and cons? Fellow traveler must have just joined us.
No, that's a fair question. I'm in Phuket, in Thailand. I love it. What are the pros and cons? Well, lots.
Yeah. Do you have to be in the Philippines to get Pacific Cross insurance?
Pacific Cross is global, so you could get it and you're covered everywhere.
Yeah. Now, did you ever have Pacific Cross?
Yeah.
And they canceled it.
Yeah.
Good to know.
For sure. I probably could. It's your typical insurance company. There's alternatives out there, but I thought they had a good price, so I grabbed it.
Yeah. Well, this one gets a lot of press. All right. Everybody says, get Pacific Cross. I love the fact that that we see the flip side of things. That's the reality. Insurance companies are there for the money. And that's why they got the tallest buildings in all the cities, because they make all the money. They got the actuaries that know the odds, and therefore they're not there to lose a dime. They're there to make money. And they know when you're going to die just by the information that you give them. They know the odds of you getting sick, and therefore they adjust their premiums. But I thought it was interesting once you filed a claim that they canceled you, because a lot of guys jumping on that because that insurance has been touted on some other channels. And I think one of them even had one of the sales reps on there talking about how great and groovy it is. And that's a sales rep talking. But it's important that guys know the flip side of things, and be. I think that the lesson learned there with your story previously about how you had insurance, you filed a claim, they dropped you, and you picked up somebody else, is always have another company in your back pocket. Never hurts to have a plan B, ever, on anything. Banking, insurance, vehicles, especially access to money.
Well, I think they're touted because they're not that expensive. They're priced well, so everybody's looking to go for the least amount of cost. So that fits in. They're affordable.
And it gets you into the country too.
And it gets you in, exactly. It answers the requirement.
That's like guys that I know personally that say, you know what, the last thing I want to do is get a vaccine. That's their opinion. And they say, I don't believe in it, but I'll get one if it gets me into the country or gets me out of the country. So I kind of put it in that category there. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Kamala in Phuket is great. More tranquil for long stays.
Yeah. When I came to Phuket, I was in Kamala for about 6 weeks. And it's just the next town up. It's beautiful. I was there the other day. And the beach is nice. The sand is a little coarser. It's funny, from one place to the next, the sand could be a little bit different.
Yeah.
And the people that I know in Kamala used to be in Patong, but it got so crazy here in Patong they couldn't handle it, so they moved up there. And that makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
I think there was a restaurant we went to in Kamala, which was called the Coffee Cup, which was phenomenal.
What's it called?
The Coffee Cup.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe.
Believe it or not, they served barbecue. They served ribs and stuff. And it was delicious. Have you been to Nihorn Beach?
Yeah, I have, actually. Yeah, it's a beautiful beach. Not much going on down there, but it's a really cool spot.
Did they have the women out there that gave you the massage under the tent and all that kind of stuff?
But there's beds on the beach if you want to get a massage. At almost every beach, you can get a massage.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. They still have the big, like, Burmese women there working on you with 300.
Oh, you get a mix. You get a mix. But yeah. I just.
Medical pot is growing all over Thailand. I don't know about that.
You know what? It's funny. I wouldn't even go near that here. It's just not worth the risk. It's, but I think he's right. I actually, when I was in Pattaya, there was a store that sold medical drinks and cannabis products, brownies and stuff like that. And I did a video, but I never posted it because I just didn't want to get tied into that. It would have been, you never know where it's going to go.
No.
It was pretty cool, though. Nice shot.
Yeah, but I would keep that private. Let's see. Muslim food in Kamala is famous. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a heavy Muslim population there, which is it's fine. It's great. You hear the prayers going off at 5 a.m, and it echoes off the mountains. It's a cool culture, I have to tell you. It's pretty, and they're super nice, super easygoing people.
Hi, Paul. Is your guest currently carrying COVID insurance? Is it required for Franks?
You bet. I have 250,000 policy for both COVID and for any other medical condition. This company's smart. They said, well, we're going to cover you for COVID anyway, so we'll just roll it under one policy. You don't need two separate forms.
Good.
And it's just fine.
Let's see. Is it true Thai authorities want marijuana to be their top producing farm?
Right. Yeah, why not? Mix it in with some soy sauce. Why not? Marijuana adobo.
So is this correct?
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, I think we're going to call it a day. How's that sound?
Right.
All right. AJ, thanks so much for coming on the little channel with me. And
yeah, Paul, it's been great. It's been awesome. Your audience is great. Good questions.
Yeah, they're smart people. A lot smarter than the host.
For sure.
Anyway, I love you and I miss you. And we will chat privately again soon, I hope. And I hope some of the information we shared here was helpful for folks. Again, I didn't get all the comments. I apologize for that, but we wanted to get this. I can't do both and get through it effectively. But all right, brother, you have a great day. Everybody out there in YouTube land, be nice to one another. Okay?
Be kind. Everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.